Hello, Zalto Live listeners. Before we get started, we wanted to let you know that more teachings from Zen monk Claude AnShin Thomas are available in his 2 books, At Hell's Gate, A Soldier's Journey from War to Peace, and Bringing Meditation to Life, 108 Teachings on the Path of Zen Practice. Both are available wherever books are sold, and all proceeds go to the Zalto Foundation, dedicated to promoting nonviolence, awareness, and positive change.
Hello and welcome to Zalto Live, the podcast featuring Zen Buddhist monk Claude AnShin Thomas, who will share with you his life experiences that includes not only military combat, personal violence, and addiction, but also healing, transformation, and the ongoing joy of everyday life. Please enjoy listening.
So questions. Peter.
Is seeking pleasure selfish desire?
Well, my immediate reaction is yes. In the sort of standard ideas of pleasure. I'll just leave it at that. Yes. Question from the group. Myo Zen.
Do you think that it's important to experience times when nothing seems to give stability or security, or nothing is consoling?
Well, all of those things you mentioned are illusions anyway. You know, it's our ideas. We have these ideas of comfort. We have these ideas of consoling. You know, the reality of existence is impermanent. Everything that comes into existence will pass away. And the same is true for those spaces that we consider comforting. What are some of the other ones?
Safety and security.
Yeah, that we consider safe or secure.
Stable.
I mean, this whole idea of safety is an illusion. Yeah, we can sometimes we can have the experience that we feel safe, but in a heartbeat that can change quite unexpectedly. However, it's only unexpected because we carry expectations. Question from the group. Peter?
Can certain actions be characterized as showing both selfish and unselfish desire? Is that either or can you have both in a single action?
All actions contain both. However, there's usually one more dominant than the other. So with a selfish action, or an action that is defined as selfish, we can at some point see that perhaps the inception of the decision was not selfish, or aspects of that selfish decision weren't really selfish. However, we have to be cautious so we can play with this intellectually and get ourselves into trouble. But as I understand, at the heart of practice, within all things exist all things. Question from the group. Yes, Bernd.
Hey, hallo.
Hallo.
Ich würde gerne wissen, ob es wichtig ist beim Meditieren, gewisse Schuhe zu tragen oder Socken oder auch barfuß, oder ist das gleich?
I'm interested to know with meditation, is it at all important what we wear? Like shoes, socks, barefooted, or is that not of importance?
Not of importance. Now there is some etiquette when entering into, for example, this meditation hall. If people come here for a retreat, we ask them to wear loose-fitting clothes, no yoga tights, and jeans are not usually helpful. There are no shoes or socks, but that's only here in this meditation. When we're in pilgrimage, you wear what you wear. Pilgrimage, I'm always in robes. Okay, question from the group. Yes, Myo Shin. I have to go slow. As soon as I say the Myo, I gotta be careful here.
So the talk you're about to give at the UU, the Unitarian Church in Los Angeles, how do you prepare or organize, or what's your approach to giving just a talk that's not questions and responses like this?
I never prepare because I'm always prepared. It's just about essential points. There is a topic, and somehow I always address the topic. Yeah. But within the context of my study and experience living for decades now as a fully ordained Zen monk, Zen Buddhist monk, I've been invited to give some instructions on meditation. So I will do there what I do here. It won't change because it's not my intention to entertain people or to conform to their ideas of things, but to simply be steady and stable and stay to the root forms that have been passed on to me. Because I know, not intellectually comprehend, but I know the overarching, how this can impact my life in ways I could never have imagined or scripted. It was my imaginations, my ideas of things that kept me trapped in repeating cycles of suffering. For my life, I'm responsible. Question from the group. Yes, Miyoko.
Anshin, what drew you to the tradition that you're practicing in as contrasted to another Buddhist tradition?
It just made sense to me. In the very first time, so when I was asked to become ordained in this lineage or in this tradition, what I was told, or the information that was shared with me when I was invited, was that there were no expectations. Other than I continue to practice meditation and do what I do. And then also the overarching message that it doesn't matter what I think, believe, or say. Yeah. It matters what I do. Cool. And that daily life and spiritual practice aren't two things. That meditation and daily life are not two things. And I just resonated with that. At some very profound level, I resonated with that. And I understood the benefits of the disciplined way in which the form was presented. I understood how the container of structure and form could support me when the world around me didn't make any sense, or when I was so swept up in thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, to hold me steady while my conditioning was to seek escape or extinction endlessly, and how ultimately unhealthy and unhelpful that conditioning was. So it just made sense to me. But it's not something I sought out, at least not consciously. Question from the group. Yes, Isabel.
Anshin, letzte Woche hast du gesagt, es existiert keine Seele, kein getrenntes Selbst.
Okay, last week, Anshin, you mentioned that there is no soul, there's no separate self.
Mhm.
Was glaubst du, welcher Teil wird dann wiedergeboren?
What do you believe, which part is being reborn?
There is no part. There is no reborn. There's only waking up. There's just a realization of the truth of conditioning. How within me exist the physical, emotional, and spiritual DNA of all past generations, family generations, and how I am simply a manifestation of them in conscious and in unconscious ways. So the point of this practice is to become more conscious of those realities. And I see that in the ways in which I interact with the world around me. Some of that karma which I've inherited is quite useful and helpful, and some of it not. But I get to see that through the ways in which I live my life, and the discipline and structure of this practice deeply support me with that, because it is that conditioning that surfaces a lot through our thoughts. It keeps giving us information that is not as supportive or helpful. So to begin to recognize what perceptions, what ideas are helpful and supportive and what aren't. The practice supports me with that. Question from the group. Bernd?
Du empfiehlst uns am Tag, morgens und abends jeweils 5 Minuten zu meditieren. Was ist, wenn ich davon abweichen möchte, mal länger zu meditieren oder auch zu anderen Tageszeiten?
You recommend to sit morning and evening 5 minutes. What if I like to divert from that to sit sometimes longer, or also sit at different times of the day?
Yeah. Trying to drive the process. Isabel, is how the mind works. Trying to drive the process. First establish a stable routine, and then allow that stable routine to develop as it will. Yes. But first establish that stable routine. Now there are some times within the context of our day-to-day life when things become a bit more challenging. So then we have to adjust that schedule. But because we have a stable routine, it becomes not a complicated matter. A stable routine is not a dogmatic thing. It's not a rigid thing. It's a disciplined thing. Our mind can tell us something different. That's how we come to know the karma which we have inherited. Questions from the group. Yes, KG and then Peter.
Ich habe das manchmal, dass ich so ein Gedankenhamsterrad habe, wo ich nicht so richtig rauskomme.
Sometimes it happens to me that I have this sort of thought hamster wheel process, and which seems I have a hard time getting out of it.
Da hilft mir das Sitzen, um da rauszukommen. Ist das okay, das dann so zu praktizieren?
I noticed that sitting meditation helps me to get out of it. So is it okay to practice it like that?
If it supports you, why not? It'd be silly not to. And I'm glad that it supports you there. Peter?
How has the desire for extinction manifested in your life?
One obvious way was the dependence on intoxicants, wanting to change my relationship with the world around me, to not feel or to control how I felt. The other would be violence, thinking of violence as an effective way of conflict resolution. It doesn't really work. Even when it appears to, it doesn't really work because it only brings more violence. And of course, my conditioning is still that violence is the solution. So I'm confronted with that dichotomy often. Question from the group. Yes, Myo Shin and Gen Rai.
Trying to find the words.
Okay.
In the 2 monasteries where you trained,
Yes.
were the instructions on how to breathe during meditation practice identical or different? And if they were different, how did you choose what to teach us?
What I chose to pass on to you. In the first monastery where I lived and studied, there were no instructions on anything. So everything evolves from the second monastery, and also from my studies. Genrai.
If I remember correctly, you were offered twice the ordained. What was the reason that for the first time you said no and the second time you said yes?
I couldn't say exactly. I just the first time I was invited, it didn't feel right to me. And then later I understood why. Because later on I was told that the only way I could get support from this, from the abbot of this monastery and the senior teacher at that point, was if I could only, how can I say this? The only way I could get support is if I did what they told me to do when they told me to do it, and that I acknowledged that this abbot was the only teacher of any worth. So I understood that point quite clearly.
Thank you for listening to this episode on Zalto Live. If you would like additional information, please look at the show notes or visit zalto.org. That's ZALTHO.org. Our work is made possible solely through donations, so please consider making a tax-deductible gift on our website. We wish you well and thank you.